Welcome back, guys. Sorry it's been a while since I've posted. There's been a lot going on. We're getting ready for the holidays and everything like that, so there's been so much happening, and like usual this time of the year. But today I want to talk about something that I feel like at least I don't talk about enough. You know, I do make lots of recovery videos, tip videos, storytelling. You know, definitely have done my fair share of symptom videos, from individual symptoms to groups of symptoms, and explaining how anxiety can cause those. But something that I haven't touched on enough, I know I've probably mentioned it or had a video or two in the past, but I have so many videos, it's hard to keep up with it. I want to talk about one of the toughest aspects of anxiety, because I feel like there's a lot of people that are getting into this. They're getting their hearts broken. They're feeling left out. They're feeling alone. They're feeling lost. Their whole world is getting turned upside down. I mean, first of all, you're dealing with anxiety attacks, panic attacks. Some of you are having health anxiety. You're already feeling like you're dying every day. Some of you are not able to get any sleep. Some of you are not able to be the athlete that you used to be because you have heart anxiety and you're scared of your vitals going up. Some of you are not traveling. It's hard to hold the job that you've loved for so freaking long because of anxiety. There's so many ways that anxiety will start to just run your life and to cripple you, right? But something, again, that I feel like I haven't talked about is seeing the people that you love, you know, push you away, show resentment towards you. Sometimes they can turn their back on you. Sometimes they can fall out of love with you. And I think that right there, it affected me, man. You know, I was always so focused on these other things, but in the background, that was always happening. And it happens slowly, you know, for most of us. I'm sure it can happen faster for some people, but for a lot of us, you know, we're dealing with this months and years, right? So it's like the people that we love become more and more impatient with us. Now, I'm gonna get the obvious one out of the way here first. They are not gonna fully understand what you're going through unless they go through it themselves. Now, we can do the best that we can to explain it, and some people are gonna show support more than others. Some of you are gonna say, well, I'm lucky that's never happened to me. I'm not saying that this is gonna happen to you or it happens to everybody, but it does happen a lot. You know, we can grow apart from other people, or they grow apart from us, or resentment gets involved, or anger gets involved, feelings get hurt, on both sides. But it really starts with not being able to fully understand what you're going through. You know, if you're having all these symptoms in the beginning and say you're like, oh my God, I feel like you're having a heart attack, and let's say your friend is next to you, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, at first you're like, oh my God, yeah, let's get you to the hospital. They're concerned, right? You go get checked out and everything like that. If it happens for the 20th time and you're around them, you're like, oh my God, I just feel like I'm having a heart attack. First of all, they're not going to react the same way. You know, they're likely going to try to give support, right? So it goes from, oh my God, they're scared for you too. They believe it's happening too, to they're going to do what they can do to give you support. Some people are better than others. Some people are going to be able to really sit there and be patient with you and talk to you. Well, Trey, look, this didn't happen the last 10 times. You know what I mean? So it's not going to happen again. But with some people, patience starts to grow thin. You know what I mean? So the support starts to thin out sometimes the longer that we have it and the more that we express it to certain people, you know. So they're not fully understanding, right? They're not fully understanding. So as time goes on and you're still having these symptoms, it could then turn into like, look, you need to stop. This is whenever we start hearing these statements like, can you just relax? Can you just not do this time? Can we just make it there? Can we go do this or do that without having to deal with this with you? You know, then it starts to turn to like just more real tough love, right? And just a lot of statements that don't do us any good, right? But it's natural, I think, for people to lose their patience with us. Some of us get very, very lucky. I've talked to some people and they're like, I've never had to deal with that. You know, I have the most supportive wife or husband or family. Some people get lucky with their bosses. Like, They told me I could go home for a couple months and just work on me. You know what I mean? So some people do get lucky with the patience and the support, but I think there's a lot of people out there, including myself, patience started to get thinner the longer that this went on and the longer that I had my anxiety symptoms and panic attacks and things like that, because I get it. Like, there were moments that I would, and I hate to word it like this, but technically I would inconvenience other people. If I have to be honest, like, it sucks that I was going through it. I deserve love. I deserve support. I was scared. I'm going through something horrific that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I didn't even want to give them a little dose of what I was dealing with so they'd believe me. It's just like, because that's how bad and horrific it was for me. But I started to cause inconveniences within my friend groups, with my family, with my relationship with my girlfriend at the time, which eventually led to us breaking up. I'm happy where I'm at. I've been married, just in October, over 10 years. We just had our 10-year anniversary, and I've been blessed, and we've got 4 beautiful children and everything, and I love where I'm at right now. But at the time, it was crazy to think that a relationship that was just really strong and tight at that time, 2.5 probably years strong at that point, deteriorated over the following year. That I had really, really bad anxiety. That's pretty quick, to have a really strong bond in a relationship, because patience started to get thinner. Dates were not the same if they were happening at all. The time that I was spending with her was shrinking because I had to get out and numb my mind, and I started to drink more. So I know that fed into it. So we started to slowly grow apart, and it went from concern and I love you, everything's okay, everything's fine, to, I remember one time she said this, and we were in the car, and she said something along the lines of like, man up and grow some balls or whatever. Whenever we were driving, I was having a panic attack, and I was just like, I hate this crap, and she had heard me go through this quite a few times. So it was like, man up, grow some balls. Or it was like, I believe that was what she said, grow some balls or something like that. And maybe she thought that would fire me up or whatever, but I know she was also frustrated or whatever. It made me mad. It pissed me off. I held resentment because of it. And then I started to think, you ain't got my back. I see how it is. You know what I mean? So now I'm angry. She's angry. And then we start to slowly grow apart. Okay? You see what I'm saying? So I'll get back. I know I kind of got off track there a little bit. The first reason is just there's this lack of understanding. They are not going to know what a panic attack is or how it feels other than what they've seen on a movie of somebody kind of huffing and puffing. That's their only description, or what you try to describe to them. But unless they actually go through it, it's going to be hard to have the biggest amount of sympathy, out there for people. It's going to be hard to be patient for longer periods of time and to be supportive to you for longer periods of time. And I'm telling you, you can do the best you can. I've tried to talk about anxiety in many different ways to help people describe it. I think there are better ways of describing anxiety than just like, I don't know, I feel like this, I feel like that. I've talked about like your brain's a TV, somebody else has the remote, they're just flipping through the channels or turning the volume up. Sometimes they're hitting mute, they're popping the guide up, all these different things are happening. Sometimes it just gets turned off. Sometimes it gets turned on whenever we don't want it to get turned on. I've described it as leaning back in your chair, and we've all been here at some point in our life, especially when we were younger. We didn't know any better, and we learned the hard way. We lean back, and that point where you get where there's like no return or whatever, and you get that weird light butterfly feeling and like adrenaline rush and panic as you're falling right there. I tell people that and just say, now imagine having that all day. From the moment you open your eyes till the moment you're lucky enough to fall asleep. And then just imagine having that nervous feeling with spikes where you're having panic attacks and huge adrenaline rushes all throughout the day, weeks at a time. But it's one of those things. I can watch a movie, and I love war movies. I can watch as many war movies as I want. But unless I go through that boot camp and then actually get out in the field and have bullets flying over my head, or having to go into a medieval battle with swords and all that, and to have people die around me and to actually be in full danger, I'm not going to fully understand that. I can try to visualize it. I can see stuff on the movies. It's not the same. I don't know. I'm just trying to make some comparisons on how We try to compare things, but it doesn't matter. And here's another thing. Some people will say, oh, no, I understand, but their anxiety is nowhere near the level of what your anxiety actually is. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not anywhere to that level. So they'll try to be supportive of everything. Like, I used to have anxiety. I'm sorry, but the butterflies you got whenever you had to say a prayer is not the same as me feeling and having every symptom of a heart attack over here and then having that all throughout the day. So there's definitely levels to it, but that's natural, right? They're going to try to compare what they've seen or what they've heard or what they've experienced anxiety-wise and try to relate with you. It's at least an attempt, right? Problem is, it's nowhere near that. So then they're going to say, well, I just got over it, or, Dad dealt with that stuff and he just pushed it down and just kept on working and just manned up. They'll start comparing you to other people, even if they don't have anxiety. They'll be like, well, Dad, you know what I mean? Or I had a friend that had it and everything. He just started to go for walks more or breathe different, or, you know what I mean? So that lack of understanding can make the connection hard. It can cut patience short, resentment, everything that follows with that on both sides. It's not just the people in our life getting angry at us. We're getting mad at them because they won't be patient or they can't understand. So I think the first step is realizing no matter what you say, you're not going to get them to fully understand what's going on. Let go of control of that. You'll feel a lot better. Let go of resentment, let go of anger, and start to really just focus on you. So I think that's the first way that this thing starts. There's just this lack of understanding, okay? Now, here's something else that you can work on. This is the thing this is going to be a little bit of tough love on you guys, because I think things could have been a little bit different. In relationships, there's different levels to emotional support that people need. Obviously, a husband and wife, you know what I mean? You need balance of support on both sides. Yeah, you got anxiety over here, but she still needs emotional support even though you're going through this. Same thing with girlfriend, boyfriend, right? Now, when it comes to mom and dad, brother and sister, and even friendships, there's some level of emotional support. There's value that you give them as a friend. Now, when you're not giving anything, most of the time, they're not just cutting you off like that. They will try and work with you and try to be patient, try to support you. And I mean, there are going to be some just rude people in your life that might shut down quickly, right? Like you weren't able to go out with the boys and go golfing, and now they just never invite you out. But most of the time, it takes a few things happening before it gets to that point, right? Most people are a little better than that. But there's emotional support in all these different relationships that you have, from friendships to family members to boyfriend and girlfriends to, your spouse, right? So something that I also want you to work on, and view this as some exposure. We're always focused on ourselves. We're always focused on our symptoms. Sometimes we are doing a lot of feeling sorry for ourselves. We're thinking about our death. And then, I'm in here, sitting here, and then say my wife's in front of me and she had a really hard day at work. She's got some tears. But, in my head, first of all, I'm thinking, yeah, but she's not dying. I think I have cancer or this and that. I have to work on still trying to be there for her, even though my mind's racing and even though I still got some of these symptoms. And no, I get it. When you're in the middle of a panic attack, it's a little bit different. You're going to have to let that thing flow through and pass before you can sit down and do things. It's really difficult to be there for somebody if you're over here hyperventilating. I'm talking about moments in between. If you get a chance, sit down with your wife, sit down with your husband, hold their hand and ask them how their day was. That will help. We think that we are entitled to all the love, all the support, all the attention whenever we start to deal with anxiety. Maybe not everybody. Maybe I'm just speaking from my personal point of view, and maybe I'm not 100% right about this, but it's kind of a theory of mine. We get so focused on ourselves, it's hard to be available for other people, our children, our spouse, our family members, our friends. And it's only natural, I feel like, as a human, for those people to start becoming frustrated, angry, less supportive, less patient, and then that's going to start them pushing away from you. And for some of us, we're going to get mad, frustrated. Well, you don't care. You just don't care about me. well, I'm going to die anyways, or fine, just leave me, or I'm just not going to go to anything. I'm a burden to everybody. And now you're going to start pushing yourself away. So it just makes it faster. It happens even faster. And I did this. Like I said, I think it was a turning point. When I heard my girlfriend at the time say, grow some balls, I got mad, and I never forgot that. And then things, of course, just kept getting worse, because I was just like, oh, she ain't got my back. Maybe she shouldn't have said that. You know what I mean? Maybe I could have changed or handled things and talked through it. But no, my ego, my pride took over. And I just had that little part of me in the back of my head was just like, well, this probably ain't going to work out, you know? And then once you get that, just things get worse. Even my mom, I love her. She helped me so much with phone calls. Phone calls were different the first month or two than the year into it. It went from, Trey, everything's okay. And, you know, I'm a nurse. I've seen all these different people. I promise, baby, it's fine. You know, I love you. To eventually a year into it, Trey, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You know you're fine. Stop with this. You see, the calls change. Things change. So they're not going to fully understand what you're going through. They're going to look within or look at what other examples they have in their life that things are okay, that things are, you know, okay for you because I've seen this anxiety thing over here and it worked out for them, or this worked out for me. And then your emotional support becomes, you know, thinner, right? You're not supporting them, and then they eventually stop supporting you. And it's sometimes we can get to the point where we feel exhausted. So just let go of control of trying to get them. That's the first step, getting them to understand. Step number 2, work on yourself, everything. I'm not going to spend another 30 minutes on that. I talk about that stuff all in my videos. I have a course that covers everything that you need to be doing when it comes to your anxiety recovery process, and it works. You just got to follow it. While you're working something, whether it be through videos, a course, a book, a therapist, a coach, all right, you got to start sneaking in some emotional support. Ask her how her day was. Try to help her, lift her up, build him up. Anybody. Call a friend up, even if you ain't been golfing with them in a while, and just ask them how they've been doing. We tend to forget about that. We get so wrapped up in ourselves and what we're going through, which is also a natural thing. But hopefully I could relate with some of you on this, show you why and how this happens, and give you those 2 tips or 3 tips. You're going to be working on yourself, right? That's fine. But you need to first let go of control of trying to get them to freaking understand every aspect, understand how the process works. The longer that you have it, and you're not giving emotional support or value, things can get spacey between the people that you love. And I'm telling you, it'll happen with the last person you thought it would happen with, okay? So hopefully you got something good from this. If you do want more help, guys, please check out Elite Anxiety Bootcamp in the description in the first pinned comment. Again, that's a step-by-step process, a plan, a program that's very extensive that you can start working today. And the holidays are coming up. You can see behind me. That program can help you get primed up for the holidays, all right? It can help out a lot, take a lot of pressure off to be working something while all this stuff is going on. Coaching information is down below if you're interested in getting on the phone with me. Subscribe if you're new. Please like this video if you got value. Leave a comment. And I hope to be talking to you tomorrow, guys. Bye.